fathers and sons have transmitted things between each other. There's been energy, there's been experience that's passed down over time that we've transmitted to each other. One of the things that gets transmitted forward from generation to generation, unfortunately, but realistically, is hurt and pain.
Well, we're here to try to improve and enhance the relationships between fathers and sons, as well as approach and deal with the issue of pain and hurt in that father-son relationship that often becomes violence, family violence. So we're really looking at the root of family violence, which often can be the pain and hurt transmitted from fathers to sons, which sons carry forward into their relationships in life.
This is across the board, from the richest to the poorest. This has nothing to do with class or race. This is a part of the human experience, okay? So what we want to do is, through art, through collage, building collages, we want to take a look at the subject or the issue of hurt and pain in our lives.
Do you want to help pass stuff out?
We began partnering with Summa Fatherhood Project last winter to begin exposing fathers to artwork, to get them to begin reflecting on their own lives, looking at artwork.
Some of the things that you will be putting in your collage probably will not be a conscious choice. You'll probably just be cutting and putting things in. Not only working visually, but also through language. If you want to start writing on the collages, I encourage you to do so. That may be the next step after going through these magazines and just identifying pictures of what hurt looks like to you, what pain looks like to you, how it makes you feel when you look at different images.
My collage right now is these tigers come to mind because these two tigers remind me of my brother and I as children. Well, as we got older, my brother and I, we lived different lifestyles. Unfortunately, he was a victim of the streets.
It's oftentimes easier for them to stand back and look at these experiences that they're having through these subjects that may not necessarily be themselves, but they are implied to be them. And so that's our hope, is to get them to then begin a dialogue, talking to us, talking to Kelvin, talking to their own family about the way that they see themselves represented in their own families.
What we hope to do is get men and the boys to be able to use the collage as a medium, as a way to approach the difficult subject of family hurt and pain in their lives, without taking it on directly, looking into the eye of the pain, which may be the very father that's here with them. So through the collage images, they are subconsciously approaching and assigning symbols and images to that pain.
I grew up without a dad, and oftentimes I felt alone. So that's that guy. This guy, when I saw that, it reminded me of when my mother got married and my stepfather. My stepfather was brutal, man. He was mean to my mom. He beat my mom. He beat me. So that's what I thought about when I saw that guy.
This is like me and him. This shows what I like, and this is me in the future.
I try not to dwell on the hurt and pain, so we did a collage on just joy. The pictures that we chose was basically around his sports activities and the connection that me and him have.
The spirit of LSU, and my name is Lamar, so I'm saying that's my three boys, so that's Lamar State University to me. Okay. You see, there's three boys playing football, and all three of my boys play football.
I work 50 to 60 hours a week, and I have them every other weekend, so when I have all four of my kids, I'm really tired or doing something for my mother. And sometimes I take my anger out on my kids, or I take my frustrations out on my kids. And it hurts a lot because I see it in their faces that, Daddy, only time when we come over here and you're always arguing with us. And I can't go through that no more.
Men actually seeing themselves as the victim of life and the victim of circumstances and of fate and that type of thing. So there's this whole mess inside that says, I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy. I'm not adequate enough. Okay? That is the root of the violence, be it verbal, emotional, or physical, that's going to be perpetrated on my children and my spouse. So it's not from a place of strength and a place of compassion and goodness that this violence is perpetrated. It's from a place where men are really, really hurt. And so obviously getting them to understand that, getting them to, like the one father, that's a huge breakthrough to hear a man trying to skirt it and then end up just saying, I'm hurt. What you're going to do is just take some time and think about your best day as a father, that day, that moment where you just got it done in some way, even if it was just a moment.
By writing it out on the newsprint, each father, and then putting it up on the wall, key component of the exercise is the fathers walking around reading each other's best day, so that there becomes a shared sense that all of us have these gifts, strengths, positives, power in our lives as fathers, and that becomes a glow. The second part of the exercise is the worst day, where we get the fathers to go into a time when it was really bad, when it was really hard, when things were very difficult, not going well for whatever reason. And the idea is to get the fathers to visit and bring up those experiences because they get to kind of physically see on the wall that is completely different from what they believe about themselves and believe about fatherhood, that they want to do well. We're asking fathers to be very descriptive and very detailed. That's a piece of the instructions that's very important. Don't worry about spelling and sentence structure. Just give as much detail and description as possible, so that when other men are walking around the room and they're reading that, they can take that in. And being that they're fathers, and that they have a worse day posted on the other side of the room, they can take that in. And that is a part of a healing. It's a coming out of isolation and saying that I'm the only one that kind of suffers or does this awful in my parenting, in my fatherhood experience. So there's a shared sense of community in that we all can have these days, I'm not alone, which is a major problem for men, thinking that only I'm the only one that's going through this. The boys went off to do the Unmet Needs workshop. We gave them 26 human needs needs that all human beings have that are basic. And the idea was to get them to identify which of those needs were being met and which of those needs were not being met. Then they're asked to identify 3 needs, their top 3 needs that aren't being met, that they want to communicate to their father.
The reason I pick encouragement is because if somebody encourages you to do something, you'll have a better chance of something going good.
What's interesting about the Unmet Needs exercise is the way we chose to process it out. To have the boys on one side of the room, have their fathers on the other, and then set it up to where these boys, one by one, get to say to their fathers, without interruption, with the camaraderie of their peers next to them, here are the things that I need from you. The boys didn't struggle with that as much, but the fathers really struggled hearing those things from their sons. And there's a challenge to the fathers that says, you're telling me I'm inadequate, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough. That's what the fathers will hear through their own distress. Okay, so without healing and assistance and help, the fathers can't hear a simple message, here's what I need from you.
The primary tool that we're giving them is the Revaluation Co Counseling, which is the listening exercise, where they can get attention paid to themselves. They can get the attention that they need. We have in the theory of Revaluation Co Counseling, if you get attention, if you get the right kind of attention, which would be someone seeing you as lovable, loving, a compassionate, empathetic being that you are at your core. If somebody can see you that way and then listen to you out of that context, just really listen to you without judgment, without opinion, without interruption, without advice, the more you get that type of attention and listening, the more you're going to break through the wounds and the pains, be able to actually feel them. Because the key issue here is not feeling them. I would hope that the boys remember that their fathers did this with them. I think that would be the biggest thing. And that when they reflect back as adults, they'll look at this and say, my dad made the effort to be better. He made an effort to treat me better, to be a better father and a better parent to me. You know, if when these boys are 30 years old and looking back on this, it might be easy for them to see that their fathers put in an effort. So that's going to feed their own sense of self-value and self-worth, which in turn gives them more of an opportunity to operate out of self-value and self-worth when they're interacting with their family and children.